It's September, it is fall, it is back to school season, and what that means is it's time to play our Gilmore Girls-inspired reading challenge game. Thanks so much for joining me for today's video where we are going to have such a good time playing our Gilmore Girls reading challenge where our prompts and challenges are based on Gilmore Girl episodes. For this particular episode, we will be using prompts that are inspired by the first half of season 2 of the Gilmore Girls, and I cannot wait to see how this goes. I think the first time I played it, which was a year ago, I ended up reading a lot of books, but then I played it again, I think in May, and it was much nicer to me. So we'll see how the game wants to play this time around. But let me give a quick rundown on how this game is going to go for those who are new. So first off, we have our game board, which don't judge me on this. This was a very first game board I've made, so it's not that great. Eventually I will update it, but basically this is our game board. It's very bright. Um and then on each of these little spots that you can probably barely see, we will be placing random tokens. So let's go through what these random tokens are real quick. So we have 3 random tokens that will be placed on the game board. First up is our character prompt token. See if I can get that to focus. There we go. So if we land on this token, that means we will be choosing a prompt from a spinning wheel that is inspired by one of the characters on the Gilmore Girls. Next up, we have our episode prompt token. And if we land on this token, it means we will be spinning a wheel that has prompts based on the first half of season 2 episodes. Then last up, we have our challenge prompt token, which looks like this. And if we land on this token, we have a wheel of challenge prompts that could be good or bad. They could, let us move forward 2 or 3 spots and or, not read a book for that role. Or they could be bad, such as having to move backwards 5 spots or reading a book greater than 500 pages. So challenge prompts can go either way, but there's only 4 of them. So we'll kind of see how this goes. All right, I am super excited to start this game. I'm hoping I can get some of my books off of my TBR for some of these prompts. We'll see how it goes. Let's bring up the game board, put our prompts down, and then do our first roll and choose our first book. All right, so let's randomly put our tokens down first. All right, I'm going to switch to the challenge prompt token because I don't want it to be the very first roll. So let's do this. All right, so here is our board. I think it looks pretty good. They're spread out well. We'll be using this little guy as our um thing we move around the board. I know there's a name for that, but right now I'm blanking on it. And we'll be using a 8-sided die. So let's go ahead and do our first roll of the game. And it's a 3. Not too bad. Better than a 1 or a 2. And we landed on character prompt. So let's bring up our character prompt spinning wheel and see what prompt we get first. All right, here's our wheel with 10 prompts based off of characters that were seen in the first half of season 2. So let's go ahead and spin and see what prompt we'll be starting this game out with. Hopefully we get a good one. Here we go. All right, we got Paris Geller, which is to read a book featuring a academic or extracurricular rivalry. So looks like we'll be doing a book that's based in a university or school. So super excited about that. Perfect for the back to school September vibes. All right, so that wasn't too bad of a first roll. It was a 3, not the highest number, but at least it wasn't a 1 or a 2. Could have been a lot worse. And we ended up on the character prompt and we got Paris Geller and have to read a book that features academic rivalry or extracurricular rivalry, which I absolutely love because that's like one of my favorite genres to read. And I looked through my TBR books first. There wasn't really a good academic rivalry in there. We do have books set in schools. We had Dark Fae, but the rivalry in there is not really academic, so I decided that didn't quite fit the prompt. And we also had the Protection of Ren Crown, which didn't really have a academic rivalry either. But I looked through the books that I got and I did find one. It actually just came out in July, and this is a special edition copy that came out in August in one of the book boxes. So I'm not going to show the whole book since it is like a recent release in the boxes in case people haven't gotten it yet. But I did flip the cover around. So I'm going to show that because it's just a color change of the normal cover. Not going to spoil the what's it called? The unique cover to this edition. But the book I chose is Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. And this is a book that is set at a academy and we have rivalry in it. So meets our prompt perfectly. So let me tell you a little bit about this book real quick. So this book is set at Blackwood Academy, which is a academy at the edge of the underworld. Once a student kind of goes into the school, there's only one way out, and that is through winning at the decennial. And winning this allows a single student to either join Blackwood's magical elite or cross over to the mysterious unknown other side. So the book follows a group of students there. The first two are Ren and August, who are fierce rivals. Yay, rivalry. And their every encounter kind of treads the line between hate and burning desire. So sounds like there's going to be a little romance in here as well. We have Irene, who just doesn't care for roles and wants to destroy everything to win. Even her only friend, Masika, another character. And then last we have Olivier, who almost gave up securing the nomination, but has decided that he needs it because he's going to do anything he can to keep his beloved Emilio with him. So these are the six students. They each have their own motivation to win and their own secrets to hide. But then there's also a sinister, shadowy force that threatens existence as they know it. So there we go. We have a little bit of a dark academia book to kick off the fall weather, kick off the back to school season. And I feel like this is a great way to kick off the fall. All right. I'm going to go start reading. This book is a little bit over 400 pages, but the words are big and it is a YA novel, so hopefully it'll be a nice quick read. And and yeah, I'll get back to you and let you know my thoughts on it as soon as I get to the halfway point, which will probably be tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. All right. I am back because I am halfway through Immortal Consequences. I guess I'll put the cover up here since I put my fabric slipcase on the book to read it, and you can't really tell what it is by just looking at the slipcase. So we'll put it up here so that everyone knows what book we are talking about. All right, so quick recap about what this book is about. So this book follows six students. Each chapter is in one of the six students' viewpoints. So we do see the viewpoint from every character, every main character in the book, like I said, of which there are six of them. And they've each kind of been paired off into couples. Not necessarily romantic couples, but couples. And the first two are Ren and August, who are kind of like the real academic rivals. They are on top of their class. They just want to be the best. And they are always kind of not bullying, but always trying to get one up on each other. Then we have, and forgive me for my pronunciations of these names, Olivier and Emilio. And these two are more friends than enemies. They're not really enemies at all. They both seem to kind of really like each other, but they don't want to admit it. And they both are very different. Olivier is more of a kind of goof off. He's really good at what, he does at school, but he doesn't really take things seriously, while Emilio is more of a kind of kind-hearted, soft-hearted person, is always thinking about others, and is very studious in his studies. And then the last two pairings are Irene and Masika. And these two also are friends and are kind of looking out for each other, but they have trust issues. And there are some secrets that they are keeping from each other that kind of makes their friendship a little bit more difficult. So those are the pairings. The book is set at Blackwood Academy, which is a academy on the edge of the other world where teens who have died end up if they haven't been chosen to cross to the other side. And here the teens learn magic, how to wield magic, as one of their responsibilities is to go to something called the ether, where lost souls are, and help those souls cross over. And to do that, they have to be able to wield magic to get through the ether. So the only way out of Blackwood Academy is to become a nominee for the decentennial, which is done every 10 years, and the chosen one who gets nominated has to pass 4 trials, and if they do that, they can choose to become a ascended, which means that they stay at Blackwood Academy forever but have full access to their magical power, or they can choose to cross over to the other side. That's the only way out of this academy. New students are enrolled into the school, usually one every couple of decades, which doesn't quite make sense from a math side of things, at least to me, unless I've missed something. Because if new souls are only coming in, once every 20 to 30 years, but they are losing a soul once every 10 years, then at some point they should run out of students. But that doesn't seem to happen. There's like hundreds of students at the school. So I'm not quite sure where that math is going. Um, it hasn't really been explained yet in the book if I'm missing something, but that was the one thing that struck me when I was first reading the book, is that that math is just not adding up. But anyway, that's not really the point of the book. The point is that the decentennial usually comes around once every 10 years, but this time, the beginning of the book, the decentennial is supposed to begin the next day, and it does, but the headmaster of the school has thrown out new rules, and everyone's really confused about this. There isn't really a good explanation. They do give you an explanation, but it seems kind of like a what do you want to call it? Kind of a easy excuse for where the author went in this book, to make this decentennial a little bit different. And I wish that the reason that it was different was more fleshed out, more believable, more a little bit more complicated than the easy excuse that was given. This is the author's first debut novel, though, and I will say, as a debut novel, it's really well written. I find myself reading it easily, getting through it. The pace is good. As the author kind of reveals different things, I felt that's been spread out throughout the book as well. This book most reminds me of Atlas 6. Um, though, kind of a different setting. But we're following the 6 characters. I will say that the 6 characters in this book I have found a lot easier to distinguish than the 6 characters of Atlas 6, where I was having trouble remembering who was who. I haven't had that issue with this book. I'm not sure why, but the 6 characters in this book have been really easy for me to remember who is who. Um, so yeah, I think that's all I have to say right now about this book. I'm interested to see where this book is going to end up. It is the first book in a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be, but I'm interested to see where we are going to go from here, from where I am. This is kind of like a book that's a combination of dark academia and trials. Because we have the trials of the decentennial, but we also still have classes at the Blackwood Academy. So it's kind of like a little bit of a nice mixture. So I'm going to get back to reading, and I will come back and meet you once I am done with the book, and we'll see my final thoughts on it. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, I am finally back. It's been a minute. I think it's been like a day since I last talked to you guys, but I have finally completed Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. And I absolutely enjoyed this book. I had a fun time reading it. I loved all the characters. I love the magic. I love the background. And I'm excited for whenever the second book in the series comes out. I know this one literally just released, and it'll probably be a minute, but definitely looking forward to reading that second book. I was completely surprised to find out that this was her debut novel, because to me it does not read like a debut novel. The plot is well established, the characters are well established, and honestly, I thought the book was written by a well established author, and only found out that it was a debut when I tried to find out what other books she had written. The second half of this book continued to go well. The author was very good at laying out hints of what was going to happen, but not so much that you could guess what was going to happen. It was only when the twists occur that you're like, "Oh, yeah. Why didn't I think of that?" So I felt like the author did a really good job with that. The twists all felt very natural. There wasn't any twist that felt like it came out of nowhere, which I completely enjoy, because it means that the author has set up that twist very well throughout the book, giving, the little hints. that you just don't realize that you're reading these hints until after you find out what the twist is. And I also love that the author did not end the book with a manufactured, a artificial cliffhanger because like I've said before, I hate those cheap cliffhangers. It just feels like an easy way out of the story to get you to read the second one. And this author definitely did not do that. All the mysteries in this book were wrapped up at the end, and the new mysteries that came at the end of the book occurred naturally, and nothing was artificial or manufactured. And I was really happy to see that, especially from a first time uh writer. So it definitely makes me feel excited to read what's going to happen next, but I still felt like this book was fully completed by the end and that nothing was missing out on the main plot of this book. So I was very happy to see that because you don't always get that in these types of books. The one thing I will say, which is not really bad, is that this book is classified as dark academia. It obviously does occur at a academy in the underworld basically. So while this book does have some academia in it, it does focus a lot on the trials that whoever the nominee for the decennial, whoever was selected for that has to go through. So if you're looking for more of a complete dark academia book, this one, like I said, while it has academia, that's not its only focus. The trials are also a focus. But if you like dark academia and trials like me, this is like the perfect book because you get the best of both worlds. So, yeah, so that is Immortal Consequences. Like I said, I felt this was a book that was set up very well. The magical system, the Blackwood Academy, the trials, everything that happened, the twists, the turns. I felt like everything was just set up so well. And I am definitely looking forward to the second book coming out. I cannot wait to see what happens after seeing how this book ended. So that's it for Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. Definitely recommend, especially if you enjoy dark academia with trials and enjoy seeing a plot from multiple characters. Plus, if you're doing the Aurelium, um, readathon, this book definitely meets the prompt for multiple point of views, 6 of them. So can't argue with that one. All right, so that's it for our first book for the Gilmore Girls game. I feel like we started this challenge off strong. Hopefully, we will continue on. We will see. So let's bring up our game board and see what we get for our second roll. All right, here's our game board. You can see that we are on space number 3. Let's go ahead, do our second roll. Hopefully, we get a bigger number than 3. Here we go. An 8. What are the chances of that? When I play these games, not too good, but let's move our little guy. 8. All right, we landed on another character prompt. So let's bring up that wheel and see what our prompt is for this game or this roll. All right, here's our wheel. Let's go ahead and spin it, see what we get. All right, we got Michelle, and our prompt is to read a book that features a pet. So I am going to go look for a book, and then I'll be back once I have found one. Trying to think if there's a book on my TBR that features a pet, but I am not sure. I'll look at those first, and then if not, I'll see what other options we have, and I'll meet you guys back here as soon as I find some. So see you guys soon. I am completely shocked. I cannot believe I rolled an 8. Like, if you guys have watched my reading challenge videos or my TBR videos, you know that 8s, honestly, anything 5 or above is super rare, and an 8 is almost unheard of. So I cannot believe that that just happened. There's a potential that we finished this reading challenge just reading 2 books, which is crazy for me. Usually I get like, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 books would be unheard of. But anyway, again landed on the character prompt. So we brought up our character wheel and we got Michelle, and that prompt was to read a book featuring a pet because as anyone who have watched the Gilmore Girls, you know about his 2 little dogs that he completely loves. So that's where that prompt inspiration came from. So we needed to find a book that has a dog in it. I looked through my entire TBR stack, and despite all the books I have on that stack, I could not find one that had a dog in it. Well, that's not quite true. There was one that had a dog in it, a pet dog. It was, The Gray King, which is that 4th book in the Dark is Rising sequence, but I didn't really want to read book number 4 for this video because for that particular series, each book builds off the previous one, so it would be basically, at this point, would not be able to say anything about book 4, so I had to cross that off the list, and none of the other books really had any pets in them that I could tell, at least. So, I then started to look through the electronic books I own, and I found quite a few options there. A lot of them had to do um, with Halloween, with the witches, cozy mysteries, because they all seem to have a cat, a familiar, but we're just getting into fall right now, so I wasn't quite ready to, haul out the Halloween books quite yet. We'll save those for more of the end of the month. So instead, I did find 2 books. Both of them have pets in them, and I'm excited to read either one. Let's talk about those 2 options. So first up is The Seed Filler by Soraya Wilson. This is a contemporary romance. Usually her books are kind of like the rom-com variety. I think I read a book a couple of reading challenges ago from her called The Chemistry of Love, something like that, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I had so much fun reading it. So this is another contemporary romance book by the author, and the book follows Juliet Nolan, who is a dog groomer, and on one of Hollywood's biggest nights, she volunteers to be what's known as a seat filler, where when people have to go to the bathroom or leave the area, she sits in their seats so, the place looks like it's filled. And she ends up sitting next to the movie heartthrob Noah Douglas. And she ends up pretending that she doesn't have a clue who she is because it's the only way for her to keep kind of from swooning. Noah ends up liking her as well because she's kind of unpretentious. She loves his dog and is not one of the worshipping fans. So he has the dog, so pet dog. Check off that prompt. Um, the only bump in this relationship is Julia's fear of kissing and the disappointments that typically follow it. So Noah suggests a remedy to her. They rehearse. So that's kind of the plot for this book, and we have our pet dog, so we meet our prompt. So that will be option number one. And then our second option is book two in the Sunny Meadows Mystery Series by Carrie Lee Towson. And this is a cozy mystery series. I read the first book on another reading challenge last fall, I think, and really enjoyed it. And it was definitely the cozy mystery, perfect for the fall type series. So I figured, why not look at the second book in the series, which is called Corpse in the Crystal Ball. So this book follows Sunny Meadows, who's a psychic, and she moved up to a small town called Divinity, which is in upstate New York, and kind of opened up her psychic shop. In the first book, she ends up being a suspect of I believe it was a murder, it was some sort of crime, and she ends up working with Detective Mitch Stone to kind of, what's it called? Oh my gosh, what's the word? To clear her name from that mystery. So this book opens up with Detective Mitch Stone's ex-girlfriend showing up and then disappearing. So the police turn to Sunny for help. Sunny's visions end up leading them to Isabel's dead body in the woods. And before she died, she had written a note in the dirt that implicated Detective Mitch Stone as her killer. So now Sunny has to use her psychic abilities to be able to clear Detective Mitch Stone as the murderer of his ex-girlfriend. And as you can see, there's a cat on the cover, which happens to be the cat that came with her house that she kind of inherited when she bought this house and seems to have its own potential psychic abilities as well. So that is our pet for the prompt. So out of these two options, I think the one I'm going to go with is Corpse in the Crystal Ball by Carrie Lee Towson because it's fall. We've entered the fall weather. Leaves are going to start changing sometime soonish. And it's time to start digging out these cozy mysteries and getting into the fall feeling. So that is the book I'm going to go with. So I am going to start reading it and I'll check in with you when I'm halfway through, let you know what my thoughts are. And yeah, I'm excited to be reading this second book in the series because I had so much fun with the first one. And they were, but the first one at least was a quick, easy read. So I'm sure this one will be as well. So I'll meet you guys back here when I'm halfway through the book and let you know my thoughts. So I'll see you guys soon. Hey everyone, I am back and I have completed the last book that we chose, which was A Corpse in the Crystal Ball by Carrie Lee Towson, which is the second book in the Sunny Meadow series. I have completed it. I know I didn't stop in halfway through, but that's because one, the book was the second book in the series, so I probably wouldn't have had much to say halfway through. And then 2, the book is also less than 300 pages, which would have made it even more difficult to have a lot to say halfway through. So, this book is a paranormal cozy mystery series that follows Sunny Meadows, who is a psychic and a real psychic whose visions typically come true. She originally, in the first book in the series, was living with her parents in New York City, but then decided that she wanted to kind of branch out, open up her own psychic business, which her parents did not approve of at all. So she ended up moving to a town in, I believe, upstate New York and opened up her business. And in the first book, she had a psychic vision that told her that I think it was a librarian was going to be murdered. And when that happened, she became the prime suspect because she told people that was going to happen, and it did. Anyway, along the way, she also became acquaintances with Detective Stone when they were trying to solve that first mystery in the first book, and that acquaintance has continued on in the second book in this series. So, let's talk about the second book. So, this book is set in the springtime. So, it's a good kind of spring cozy mystery with a little paranormal in it. And the mystery that is being solved in this book is that the ex fiance of Detective Mitch Stone, her acquaintance, has been found dead, and Detective Mitch Stone is the prime suspect. So, because the police are aware of her abilities, though not everyone believes, including Detective Mitch Stone, that her abilities are real, she has been invited to partner with one of the other detectives to find out who truly killed Mitch Stone's girlfriend. I think her name was Isabel. And that is where the book goes to figure out who killed Mitch Stone's ex fiance. So, first off, I really enjoy the character of Sunny Meadows. She is just a fun, upbeat character, and she's kind of the sunshine to Detective Mitch Stone's grumpy. So, there is a little bit of sunshine grumpy trope in here as well. And I like how she kind of goes to figuring out the mystery. It's always fun trying to see what shenanigans she's going to get up to as she tries to figure out, who killed this woman. And it's also fun the pairing that she has with this other detective because they are also quite opposites. So it's kind of enjoyable to see that relationship as well. As we said before, when we chose this book, we had the final book that had a pet in it, and this book does have a pet. It has this cat named Morty who came with the house that she bought, and he also seems to have his own abilities and is kind of like a free roaming cat who has his own mind, his own independence. And the other character that was introduced in this book is kind of like the comic relief character, and that is Granny Gert, and she is so much fun. The scenes with her in it are kind of like a good breakaway from the mystery that is going on. One big plot line for Granny Gert is that she is learning to drive. She's like, I don't know, in her 80s, 90s, and has never really had a driver's license and has decided that she would love a driver's license. She had no issues passing the written test. But when it comes to the driving test, she is not the best driver in the world, as the town has quickly come to figure out. She almost drives into a pond with Sunny's car, for example. And Sunny is never very excited to get into the car with Granny Gert when it's time to do her driving lessons. That was kind of a fun, kind of comic relief parts of the book because that plot line kind of goes throughout the whole book as well. The other thing that's kind of fun with how the author names these books is that Sunny Meadows, with her psychic abilities, she is able to know what psychic equipment that is best for each person, whether it's reading tea leaves or using like tarot cards. She's able to kind of read the person and determine the best method to figure out their future or answer the question that they want to know. And each book is actually named after one of those methods, and that method is what's used in that book. So, A Tempest in the Tea Leaves, most of the readings were done using tea leaves. This was A Corpse in the Crystal Ball. So, most of the readings were done with a crystal ball. So, I thought that was kind of a fun naming strategy for these books. I have no idea what the next book is called, but I'll definitely be reading it. So if you're looking just for a fun, cozy mystery that doesn't take itself too seriously, that you can just kind of enjoy the paranormal plot lines, this is definitely a series to check out. It does read pretty fast and it's a pretty easy read, and I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of this series. So that is The Crystal Ball, or that is The Corpse in the Crystal Ball, book 2 of this game. Let's bring up the game board and go ahead and do our third roll. All right, here we are back for roll number 3. Anything above a 5 means we made it to a finish line, which is amazing on 2 books. I do have a roll for when I've only read 2 books during the game, which I've never had to implement before because we always get at least 5 books in these games, I feel. But if I finish a game having only read 2 books, I will read 1 more book at the finish line. So, no matter what, we will be reading a 3rd book, but let's go ahead and see how we'll be choosing that 3rd book. So, here we go for roll number 3. All right, a 3. So, we did not make it to the finish line, which is not unexpected when I play these games. So, let's go ahead and move our little guy 3 spots. 3. All right, this time we got a episode prompt. This will be our first time spinning our episode prompt wheel, so let me bring that up. I'll be right back. All right, so here is our episode prompt wheel. There are 10 prompts on here that are inspired by the first 10 episodes of season 2 of Gilmore Girls, so 1 prompt per episode. So let's go ahead, spin it, and see what prompt we got to fulfill for our 3rd book of this game. All right, here we go. What will we get? All right, it looks like Red light on the wedding night. Read a book where a character has second thoughts about a commitment. Ooh, this one could be difficult to find. I'll have to, obviously, I'll have to look through some books and I'll meet you back here with our options. So I'll be back soon. All right, so we only rolled a 3, but that's okay. We were going to read 3 books no matter what. And now anything that is a 2 or higher means that we will have completed the game on the next roll. And we landed on the episode prompt, which is the first time that we did it for this game. So I'm very glad that we got the chance to spin the episode wheel. And we got the episode where Lorelai breaks her commitment with her fiance, I believe. And we had to find a book where one of the characters broke off a commitment. And after looking through my TBR, because we are over a week into September and I really need to get reading on my TBR, I have found the book that we'll be going with, and it is A River of Golden Bones by A.K. Mulford. And this is book 1 of the Golden Court series, which is kind of almost a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. So, this is a fantasy book that is written in the viewpoint of Calla, who is the daughter of the king and queen of the Golden Court, and also twin sister to, I guess, the crown princess Briar, who is older than her. And they are both wolves who have been hiding away among the humans because their parents were murdered by a evil sorceress rather, and to keep the twins safe, they were whisked away by a fairy to grow up among the humans until the time that the twins turn 18. This book starts off when the twins turn 18, and what that means is it is time for Briar to marry the crown prince of a different kingdom, the kingdom that is ruled by the Silver Wolves, so that the Silver court and the gold court will now become one court. So on their 18th birthday, they leave the village that they grew up in to travel to the silver court with Briar's betrothed, who is Prince Grey, and upon arrival to the court, it is time for Briar to get married. Only things don't go as planned because the evil sorceress shows up and puts Briar into a sleep that can only be awakened by her one true love. The other thing is that no one except for Prince Grey and his father know that Calla is actually Briar's twin, so they believe that Briar is the last remaining royalty of the Gold Court, and no one knows that Calla is actually also a heir. When Briar's put under the sleeping spell, Calla has to go on a quest to save her sister to find her one true love and awaken her sister. And that is what this book follows. Now, it may sound like no commitments are broken here, but there are some sort of commitments that are broken. One of them is that Calla had always thought that she would be kind of the shadow to Briar, but now she has to break that commitment off, bear with me here, and become a main character basically to save her sister. And then there's also a romantic commitment that gets broken off in here as well, but I don't wanna really say what that is because, that would could ruin the plot. So, that is a book we are going to go with. Meet you back here when I'm halfway through and let you know what my thoughts are. All right, I am back and I'm halfway through A River of Golden Bones by A.K. Mulford. Overall, I've been enjoying it. It's definitely kind of like a fantasy romancy slash fairy tale retelling, only this time the main character of the fairy tale is the twin of Sleeping Beauty rather than Sleeping Beauty herself. And overall, I've been enjoying the plot. It did take me a minute to get into the book. It definitely took me a couple of chapters to get really into the plot. It definitely starts off a little bit slow, but now that I'm on the main quest, I've really been enjoying it and enjoying the characters as well. So this book is told from the viewpoint of Calla. That's the only viewpoint that we get in the book, which is fine. My main issue with the first part of the book was that we didn't get to know too much about Briar and kind of what her personality was, because there wasn't a lot of interaction between the twins except for like one big conversation they had. Um, we didn't really get to get a good feeling of who Briar was. So um, when she was caught up in the evil sorceress's sleeping spell, I didn't really feel anything about that. And I felt like if we had gotten to know Briar a little bit better in the beginning of the book, that would have been more impactful than it actually was. Calla, I've been enjoying for the most part as well. I still though don't feel like I know her like super well yet. Her personality is definitely coming out as you get further into the book, but I just feel like there's more background and stuff that we could know about just to get to know her a little bit better, and that's kind of like my biggest thing, about her at the moment. We are in a quest through the 4 kingdoms of the land, each kingdom being raised by a different wolf pack. Not raised, each kingdom being ruled by a different wolf pack. I do wish that we knew a little bit more about the kingdom that Briar and Calla were from. We get like hints here and there, but I guess it makes sense because this book is being told from the viewpoint of Calla, and they did not really know a lot about their kingdom, both before and after the evil sorceress killed their parents. So I guess in that way, it makes a little bit more sense, but I feel like we're missing something there. I'm hoping that as we get to the second half of the book, that we get to find out a little bit more about the kingdom that the twins come from as well. I feel like the wolf part of it has been well spelled out. We know both the benefits of being a wolf, what being a wolf is like, what being part of a pack is like, and I think that has been well laid out so far as well. The other main character in this is Prince Gray, who we are slowly learning about. It's definitely kind of like a slow burn learning about the prince, but we are definitely getting there. So that would be my biggest thing right now is I wish I felt like I knew the characters a little bit more than I do right now. I'm enjoying the plot line. I'm enjoying the story. I think the quest is a fun part of this book. I just wish I had a little bit more feelings about the characters than I currently do. But we'll see what it's like when we get to the second half of the book, as the main plot line starts to really play out. So I will check back in with you guys once I am through the rest of the book and let you know my final thoughts on it. And then hopefully we will be doing our final roll of the game, crossing our fingers. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, I am back and I have completed A River of Golden Bones by A.K. Mulfer, which is the first book in her Golden Court series. There's a little close up of it. And I definitely enjoyed the second half of the book a lot more than the first half of the book. I felt more invested in the storyline and in the characters than I did in the first half of the book. And I felt like the second half definitely picked up a lot. And I really ended up enjoying the second half of the story a lot. I felt like we got to know Kala a lot better than we did in the first half. And after some of the things that happened in the second half, I kind of understand why I felt that I didn't know her as well in the first half of the book. It kind of made sense once I got and read through the second half of the book. So there is that. I really enjoyed all the side characters in this book as well. I felt like they all had their own personality and their own reason for being in the story, that they weren't just thrown in just so that more characters were in the book. I felt like each of the side characters that the author brought into the story had a reason to be there, which was nice. And it also made it a lot easier to remember each of the side characters that were in the book. This was definitely a good quest slash adventure story. It was also a story where the main character kind of finds out who she truly is after growing up in the shadow of her sister. And I felt that the way the author did that, again, especially in the second half of the book, worked really well. And I felt that the reason that the character was able to find themselves because her twin sister was put under a sleeping spell was a good segue into the character learning who she truly was when her sister was not around. This book also definitely has some romanticy to it. There's definitely some spice in this book, especially again in the second half. I think I said in the first half that the twins were 18 years old, but that was wrong. They actually are 20. They just turned 20, which is when Briar was supposed to marry Gray before she was put under that sleeping spell. There is definitely a lot of spice in the second half of the book, so if that's not something you enjoy, that would be a caveat for this book. Is it is spicy. It's not the most spicy book I read, but definitely has some spice to it. I really enjoyed the twist on the Sleepy Beauty retelling as well and felt that that wove into the story really well. And I am looking forward to the second book to see where we are going in next in the story. I will say, like I always like to say, this book did not have any bad cliffhangers on it. There wasn't a cheap cliffhanger. There wasn't really any cliffhanger. Just the end of the book kind of told where the second book was going to go next, which obviously I don't really want to say because it ruins what happens in this book. And like I said, I felt like the second half of the book really picked up on the story, on the characters, and it was much quicker, a much easier read to get through the second half because I definitely felt more invested. But that's it for A River of Golden Bones by A.K. Mulford. Again, this is book one of the Golden Court series. I think it's going to be a trilogy. I know book two is out because I own it. I'm not sure if book three is out yet or not. But yeah, we'll continue on with this trilogy in the future. All right, so now it's time to bring up the game board and see what we roll for what will hopefully be our last roll of the game. All right, here we are back at our game board in a little bit of a different location, but that's fine. Still should show up good on the camera. We are right here. We're only 2 spots from the finish line, so anything above a 2 is going to mean that we have completed this game. So 7 out of 8 chance, we are done with 3 books. We really need this to be done so I can edit it and put it on YouTube tomorrow. Here we go. All right, a 4. We have finished our game. Yay! So only 3 books that we had to read this time. So that is wonderful. All right, so we ended up with a 4. Technically, we actually had a 5, but it rolled off the table, so I had to roll again, and we had a 4. But either way, we finished the game board. Whether we counted that first roll, that was a 5, or we went with the 4, We have completed our Gilmore Girls-inspired reading challenge with only 3 books, which I think is the best monthly reading challenge that I have ever done. We never end up with 3 books, so I am super excited about that. I definitely had a good time with this reading challenge. I enjoyed the books that we ended up reading for it. We started off with a brand new Dark Academia release in Immortal Consequences. Then we went on to read a cozy mystery with A Corpse in the Crystal Ball. And we finished with a romantasy slash fairy tale retelling with A River of Golden Bones. So I think that was a really enjoyable game that we played, and I'm looking forward to bringing it back again in the spring and see where what books we'll end up reading for season 2, part 2 of our Gilmore Girls inspired reading challenge. I hope you guys enjoy this reading challenge as much as I did. So next week, our reading game slash challenge is going to be a fall inspired challenge where I have some fall prompt cards and we'll choose 3 of them and choose books based on those fall inspired prompts. So I'm definitely looking forward to that as we get closer and closer to fall weather. I feel like next week is kind of the perfect time to start really getting in gear for the fall. And I can't wait to see what books we end up reading for that challenge. And then after that will be our October TBR, which is crazy because I feel like I literally just did my September TBR and I've only read the one book off of it so far. So that is going super well. Hopefully we can get some good reading out of that in the next couple of weeks, get to at least 10 books. We'll see. Um, yeah, those are the next couple videos coming out. Thank you again for joining me for this video. I truly do appreciate it. And I definitely have a lot of fun playing these reading challenges. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see future videos by me, including next week's fall inspired fall inspired reading challenge and then our October TBR game, please hit that subscribe button. And if you just want to let me know that you were here, let's do a fox emoji, which yes, I realize the characters in the last book were wolves, but the nickname for the main character was Little Fox. So let's go ahead and leave a fox emoji for that. Thank you once again for joining me for today's video. I will see you around for my next one. Take care. Bye.